video in the series, all about making one of these ammo can stoves. Now, very kindly, Jason from Willowwood Knives done the initial first part of the build, purely because I didn't have, you know, the right size cone cutter to make the holes and all the rest of it that he'd done. So many thanks to him for getting it started. Now I'm going to attempt to try and finish it, or at least get it to a stage where I can actually burn it to see if it actually works as I want it to. So let me just go over the materials that we're going to use to create part 2 of the build. Well, this piece of metal here, it come out of a trolley. When I took the dogs for a walk, I found it on an industrial estate just dumped, and it's quite thin and pliable. So what I attempt to do is to use that for the mesh liner, which is going to be raised off the bottom of the inside of the can to create some airflow. Now I'm not sure how long it's going to last. It's a freebie, obviously it doesn't cost nothing, so if it fails I'm just going to have to think of plan B. Now moving along for the legs, I'm going to go with deep section DIN rail. We use these at work. These are all offcuts, surplus to requirements. These are quite deep, steel and galvanised, so they're going to be pretty much okay for outdoors. Now these are not going to be pretty much inside, they're going to be outside, so they're not going to be affected by heat pretty much, only a small part of it is. So that is going to be a nice sturdy set of legs, and luckily they fit exactly inside the ammo can, which is perfect. This is the grill, which Jason kindly sent with it, and it fits perfectly onto the top, as I'll show you in a sec. But it's nice heavy gauge. You know, you want to try and avoid the cheap stuff which you're going to cook on, because after time they're going to heat up and they're going to be bending everywhere, and you know, never know, one day you might put a heavy pot of water in there and it might just break and go through. It could be a disaster. So you want to try and get some heavy gauge stuff for the grill or the cooking top anyway. As far as fixtures and fittings go, we've got loads of these readily available at work, and I just wish I had M6 by these size in stainless, but it is what it is. If it starts to fall apart and rust, I'll just chop them out and replace them with stainless. But I'm going to go with these for the initial start of this exercise, and to see how we get on. All they're going to do is to hold the supports in place there on the side. Now they're going to be taken on and off with wing nuts, we call them in the UK. I'm not sure what you call them in America, but they're just like nice and quick to take on and off the setup. Moving along, now I had to buy this on eBay. This is the most expensive part. This is just over £10. It's stainless steel exhaust pipe, so it's tailor-made for the job. It's 60mm diameter, which is going to fit onto the exhaust port of the top of the stove, because it's flanged, and I couldn't believe how well that fitted, so we'll be showing you that in a sec. We've got some correct size fire rope, we call it in the UK. Now all this is fiberglass rope, which is going to be used to seal the lid to the stove to stop any gas and smoke escaping, so we get maximum efficiency within the heater itself. Now it's recommended that you actually get the glue that comes with it, because you don't want it just coming off accidentally with a fire going on there. It's not a good idea. So it's pretty inexpensive really to get them to as a pair on eBay, and it's freezing cold. It's been in the shed, so I hope it works okay soon. That was the size recommended by Jason. Obviously it's far too big, so I don't know what I'm going to use that for. It might come in handy for future projects, so I'm not just going to be silly and throw it away. Once it's all burnt through and I'm happy with it, I'm going to be painting it. Now you want to try and get some high temperature paint. I'm not sure how this is going to work. This is the first. I've got a feeling it might be gloss. It doesn't really say anywhere. So we're going to see. It's forest green. I just didn't want to get a plain black one, because everything else seems to be green, so you might as well keep it all in keeping. Now the reason behind this, you can leave it and not do it, but because the ammo can's mild steel, it's going to rust in time. So you want to protect it, unless you want to be taking it in and out of your bag or your vehicle with rust and chunks falling off everywhere, and eventually you might start getting some cracks with the temperature, so you want to try and protect it as much as you can. This is a baffle which sits inside the stove at an angle. I'll show you that in a sec, and that's perfect. It really is. It's excellently calculated and cut and made. You'll see in a sec. And this is the top of the stove, the ammo can heater, and all you can see there's an exhaust port, I'm not sure what it's called, an outlet maybe, from a Land Rover Army vehicle in the UK, and that's pretty much it. And it's all been properly sealed inside, so you're not going to get any gases or any smoke escape. It's all going to be pretty much shooting straight through that tube there, and that fire rope is going to sit inside that groove all the way around the edge. Now I've got a feeling on what this has already been fire tested already by Jason. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to, whoops, that's better, come on, get in the focus. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to give that a clean up, so the glue will probably work better when it's clean. And there's the ammo can itself with the lid taken off. Now as you can probably see, the marks there, that's where the baffle is going to sit, up on top of that joint there and straight down. It's brilliant, you'll see in a sec. And that is the door that was fitted on the front there. Now these, I believe, are from wood burning stoves, so they're pretty much tailor-made. Now I'm not sure how much heat transfer there's going to be between the base and the handle itself. Only testing will show that. And we've got some holes there. I've got a bottom of a bean tin, let me show you that, which I cut out of the bottom of a baked bean can. The problem is, I've just found out, because I've only just done it, it's just a little bit too big. The hinge is in the way, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might just have to chop off 2 straight edges either side, so it will fit in there, and I can turn it around to a certain point anyway. So we're going to faff around with that later on. The hinges, it looks like they've been pot riveted on there. I don't think any welding has been done to this, because you've got to be very careful when you're welding with something like this, because the steel's not exactly thick. You could go through it if you're not an experienced welder. And there we go with the door open there, you see. Some of you guys are recommending that I put some fire rope around there or on the back of the door. I'm not going to do anything about it just yet. We're going to be actually testing it with some real fire later. And if it is escaping anywhere around there, then obviously I will. But if it's not needed, I'm not going to waste my time doing it. So we'll wait and see how that goes. And yeah, all looking good. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, we're going to start building it. Also, while I'm going to get set up, and because this is quite cold, it's been in the shed for about a week now, it's been sub-zero on sometimes, what I'm going to be doing is actually just sitting it in some hot water from the tap, and that is just going to warm it through and make it easily to use. Otherwise it's going to be very, very hard to squeeze out the nozzle. And also, here's another fantastic tip, and I've tried it and it does actually work. If you're using spray paint, and it hasn't got to be really, really cold, but you need to make it quite warm. Now what I've been doing is I've been filling up a bucket of hot water and just sitting the spray can in there, or the rattle can if you want to call it that. And all it does is it warms the paint up. Not too much, you haven't got to put it in boiling water. Just warm water, which you wash your hands in maybe. And just bring the paint up to temperature. And what that actually does is when you actually spray it through the nozzle there, it comes out nice and fine, giving you lovely, lovely fine coats. It doesn't splatter at all, and it really does work. It worked a treat when I decorated my front room, when I spray painted my fireplace. It's like airbrushing, it's fantastic. So it's a great tip. Get your paint up to temperature, just leave it in hot water, I don't know what temperature, maybe 40, 50 degrees for about 10-15 minutes, and just let it warm through, and you'll be good to go. Right, we've just removed pretty much as we can of the soot from the groove areas where we're going to be putting the small fire rope. Now with most things, when you're going to be using adhesive, you really want to try and make sure that you clean it as much as possible, because if you just squirted it on there, press the rope in, it might be great and it might just fall off. You just don't know. So it's worth trying to do the job properly. This stuff is 99.98% pure alcohol or thereabouts, and it's fantastic for removing all of the bits that you can't really get off. You spray it on there and you just use a brush. It's used to be long. I'll cut it down because it's more stubbly and it really gets into the areas, you know. And all that will do is just make sure that you're going to be removing as much crap as possible, giving you a nice clean surface to work on, so your glue should work to its best. Now that's brilliant stuff. Because it's pure alcohol pretty much, it's going to evaporate. As you can see, it's nice and clean now, ready for the glue. Well, because this rope's already been used, you will see that it's got like carbon soot all on one side. Now we're not going to be putting the glue on that side, we want to keep it on the clean side. So that's the first point of note. And also, when you get these pieces of fire rope, they actually tape the ends to stop it all fraying apart. So you need to chop those off. This incidentally is 8mm thick, which I think is just the right size for something like this. Now all we're going to do is we're going to just see how much we're going to need before we do anything. Now at this point, it's an important note to not be tempted to stretch it. You're just going to gently run it in there, because the reason why we don't really want to stretch it is because we want maximum surface area to create the seal. And if you stretch it, albeit a tiny little bit, it's going to make it thinner. So I think you want to get as much in as possible. So don't be tempted to stretch it. That's what I want to do anyway. And it's going to be there. I'm going to cut it a little bit over because I've got a feeling that's going to fray. So we're just going to chop that. There we go. It might be an idea to melt that with a lighter, I'm not sure yet. So now we've got our size, and it's nice and clean where it's sitting in, we can now get the glue in there. Well, that's been in there for, well, I don't know, 10-15 minutes maybe, and it feels okay now. It's just like lukewarm to the touch. It wasn't like a nice cube like it felt earlier, and you can actually hear it sloshing around in there. So let's have a look, see what it's like. Oh yeah, very nice. So it looks like we're going to have to either pour it into a container and brush it on, or we cut the top and ruin it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that in a container so I can use it the same bottle again. And all that is just a lid off of the IPA that we used earlier. It's getting low anyway, so it's only going to get binned, so you might as well make the most of it. Give it a good shake, as most things when you're like glues and adhesives. So I'm only going to want a tiny little bit, we haven't got to go crazy. And I think that's got a shelf life of about 12 months, so I'm going to use what I can on other projects and just give away the rest to someone who's going to be using it probably. Because there's no point in just keeping it to yourself and let it ruin and thrown away. All we're going to use is just a cheap old little kiddie's paintbrush. As always, I've just snipped the bristles off to make it a little bit stubbly so I can get it all in there without splashing it everywhere. So, here's the moment of truth. The consistency's not too bad really, feels like a good sort of glue for something like this. And we're just going to paint it all on quite liberally. I'm not sure how long this is going to take to cure, set, go off, however you want to call it, because it's the first time I've ever used it, so we're going to be finding out together. So it looks like it's soaking in quite quick, so I'm going to put like a good coat on all the way around, and then I'm just going to get as much on as I can, as quick as I can. So yeah, let's get it on there. Now what I'm finding out quite quickly is I've already got one coat on, as it were, and it's just soaking in. So all I'm doing now is I'm just dabbing it on, so you've got like a good surface area of glue so the rope can actually adhere to. Otherwise I think it's just going to not really stick very well. So I'm putting quite liberal blobs. It may be messy, but I don't really give a shit, because to be honest, this is going to be like a furnace in there one of these days, and it's all going to disappear anyway. So that's how I'm doing it. As I say, I just put one thin coat on all the way around, and again as well, just to make sure. And now I'm just actually blobbing it on so it actually doesn't soak straight in. Well, this has pretty much used up all that I had, so there's a good guess really of how much I put in there. It just seems to have really coated it all. Let's have a close up to show you exactly what it looks like. You see what I mean? It's actually a bubble raised all the way around it. It's just loads of glue there now, ready for the rope. Right, I'm going to start off, well, I don't want a dry run. And as I said, we're just going to be keeping the sooty side of the rope upwards. because we want the nice clean side of the rope sticking to this lovely glue. It's getting all over my finger, so I'm not sure what sort of effect that's going to be. I'm not sure if it's oil or water based, so I'll tell you how I'll get on with that. So we want to keep it close to these grooves here on the edge. You don't want to sort of let it fall out, if you know what I mean. And as I said earlier, I'm trying not to get tempted to pull it nice and tight. We just want it in there nice and thick, because we really do want to seal that groove up in there, you know. So in fact I might stretch that end bit just to get it to the end. That's it. So that's looking good. I'm not sure how long this takes to go off, but all I'm going to do is I'm just going to finger run the excess glue onto the edge, because I really do want this sealed, you know. It's going to stay in there and it ain't going to come out again. Right. Yep, I'm happy with that. That's going to go nowhere. Well, it come off with warm water and washing up liquid, or I think you guys in America call it dish soap, is it? So yeah, look, it's all come off. Right, now that's all glued on there, we're just going to set that aside out of the way to cure. Now I don't know how long this takes. The time now is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1300, so I'll let you know how long it takes. Right, we've got the stove on its side now. As you can probably see in front of you, we've got the hinges in place already. So my plan of putting it right to the edge is going to change now. All I'm going to do is just to bring it over to one side. Now as you can see, this is all slotted and it's quite deep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get these slotted sections equally spaced from the bottom in 4 positions on each corner. So I'm going to mark those out now. This is quite crucial, because if you get this wrong, when you actually come to stand on the floor, it's going to be wonky, and you don't want it wonky. So we're going to be marking those up now and crack on with the next part. Well, what I think's best is going to be doing it right in the middle there. Now you just want to try and do this by eye. The lighting's not very good here, so you've got to be careful. And with one true punch right in the middle, you don't want to fanny around with something like this. You've got to be sure and spot on and just do it. You know, pissing around there. Well, all I'm going to do now is just put a really small 2mm pilot hole in there just to get started. Once we've got the holes all in position, we're just going to open up to 6mm, which is the size of these slots here. Right, before we go any further, you have to put safety specs, goggles, whatever you want to call them, on. Make sure they're clean as well. There's no point having stuff like this where you're all scratched up and you're squinting to see, because it's dangerous. You only get one pair of eyes, and if you lose one or both of them, just imagine how different your life would be after that. So it's not worth cutting corners, being a redneck, pokey, whatever. Make sure you protect your eyes. I remember a poster when I was at school years ago, and it was an owl, and it had big letters on it. Be wise, protect your eyes. And that was in the metal workshop and the wood workshop as well. And it always stuck with me. And always make sure they're nice and clean, so you can see through them. You don't want no scratches or crap. If they are scratched or crap, bin them. It's not worth it. They're only cheap. So anything flies off, it's not going to do your eyes in. Right, let's get the upholstery up. Right, because this is a relatively low power drill, you don't really need ear protection. So we're just going to start off slowly to make sure that it's not going to wobble all over the place. But once you're confident that it's spot on, just go for it, just draw straight down. No problem at all. Well, I don't want to tell you guys to suck eggs. Those of you who do stuff like this already know. But for someone who's never done it before, you're not going to be doing a 6mm drill bit, which is that, straight into the metal without a pilot hole. Now all I do is just do it in 1mm increments. So I've done 2, 3, 4, 5 and then finally 6. That way you're going to get a nice clean hole exactly where you want it without cutting too many corners or blunting in drill bits. Right, as you can see, we've got all of the 6mm holes drilled now, and call me a perfectionist, but I always prefer to use just a deburrer to take any sharp edges off. So it doesn't take long. Piece of cake really. Right, these look like they're spot on. You want the holes right in the middle because it gives you that manoeuvrability to adjust, you know. So what I'm going to be doing, because I'm using wing nuts, it's going to be tricky to get the wing nuts in and out of there. So what I'm proposing I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop this out with just a disc cutter or an angle grinder, whatever you want to call it. So you just want to sort of roughly by eye make a mark there, and just take that section out. You're just going to be cutting all the way down there, leaving the bottom piece. So they're going to go on there, so you can get to your wing nuts easy without all this being in the way. So I might as well mark them all together. Again, just check with your eye, making sure that you are happy with it, rather than just trust everything and do it. Because once these are cut, there's no going back. So I think around there will be spot on. Right, with the luck in the bottom on, we're just going to change that for a cutting disc. And that's all it is. It's just a nice, simple, thin cutting disc. Right, with the safety specs on, now you're going to be needing something like this. Now this is a bit different than just your run-off-the-mill ear protection. Some of you who have surfed before will probably notice these. When you're on the shooting ranges, yeah, it's a good idea if you can get yourself a set. Not everyone gets issued them, but you know, you can find them in surplus stores and they're amazing at blocking the sound out. That's the information there. As you can see with a crow's foot, it's genuine issue, they're not cheap crap. And they really, really do work a treat to block your sound out. And they're fully adjustable as well, depending on what size edge you've got. At the moment I can't hear a bloody thing, which is a good thing. So I'm going to turn the volume down on the video because you don't want to get blasted by this. And especially if it's a small area like a shed, it could really damage your hearing and that ain't good. Alright. Well, as I'm carrying on, it's becoming apparent that this thickness of cutting disc is far too big. I mean, that's all they had in Halfords, which is an auto centre here in the UK, so it's going to be down to the old trustworthy hacksaw. So I'm going to use this to just do the downward cuts, and the rest of them I'm just going to mince through that great big thumping bloody blade cutter. Right, now that we've got all of the pieces pretty much cut and finished, so there's not like splinters everywhere, we want to just give them a little bend. Now this is going to be the angle that's going to stabilise it rather than just going straight. So hopefully, if I can get all these the same, it would work out pretty good. Right, now that I'm happy with those, we're going to be putting just full nuts onto there. No room and space for washers, so we're just going to go hard with screws and nuts. Nice and tight. Yeah, I'm glad that these are slotted so you can adjust them, because that would have been too tight. But this is on its maximum height setting now. Right, the four legs are on, and it's worked out pretty good because you can bend them and they stay there. So you can get it really, really steady, you know. You get it any way you like, because bearing in mind this is going to be going on uneven ground. There's no such thing as a perfect flat surface out in the woods and whatnot, so they are quite adjustable, which I love. And because of the angle sideways, it's quite stable too. And of course you can make it level as you want, because if you have got it level, when you've got water near the top of a mug or whatever, it's not going to be spilling over one side. So if you can get it level and adjust it, all the better, I reckon. Right, I'm going to try and tackle the little ventilation area at the front. Because this has come straight from a can opener, some of it is quite sharp. So we're just going to knock off anything that is sharp. I think it'd be pretty much of a schoolboy error if you did go out in the field and you got all this going and you just cut yourself because there's sharp edges everywhere. You know, you want to try and nail these sort of things right from the start if you can. But we ain't got to be perfect, we just want to make sure that there's nothing sharp on here. Well, all I've done is I've just lopped off two sides just so it can turn a bit, not too much, but what I've done is I've offset the furthest point and just traced the holes through with a felt marker and drilling them out, and hopefully it should all line up, or thereabouts anyway. Well, as you can see, that clearly didn't work. We got up to 7mm and they weren't too bad. As soon as it went on to 8mm, we just ripped it. I think the tin was just so weak it just couldn't handle it. So that's probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes wasted. Live and learn. I'll have to rethink about that one. Well, you can see the screws there, which are holding on the legs, and luckily for me, that baffle goes on just right. Now the idea is angled as this. When you've got the chimney, which is around this area here, you don't want all of the flames just disappearing straight up through the chimney. You want to keep the heat in there. So the idea is you've got all the heat down here, because it's coming up at an angle, it's literally forcing the heat right up to this part, which is exactly where the cooking part's going to be. That's the theory, but we'll have to see how it goes in the burn test. So now all I need to do is to cut and manipulate all of this. So I've got a suspended mesh tray at the bottom so airflow can surround the fire and feed it with oxygen. Well, all I've done now is I've just drawn a line straight down the middle and measured it roughly on the inside, so we've got it pretty much how we want it. Now I'd rather make this just a tiny bit smaller than it needs to be, rather than get it perfect or just a little bit bigger where it doesn't fit, because it's going to be such a pain in the arse trying to make it fit if it's too big. So we're going to try and get it right first time. These lines are going to be where it's going to get bent 90 degrees, and yeah, just going to basically just zip through the perforations there for where the bottom's going to be. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a good idea to check these things, because, you know, no matter how convinced you are, until you line it up and you see inside, bearing in mind we've got these rivets on the inside and the screw heads. You know, I'm going to take this in a little bit narrower, because if I bent that now, it's not going to fit. So it's really important to double check just to make sure. And also for the height as well, I reckon, see, that is perfectly along with 20mm, so I'm going to make it a 20mm height, I think. I don't want it a couple of mil above this opening, just in case, you know, bits of wood get snagged on it and move it around and stuff like that. I want it to be a nice easy operation when it just goes straight in. At this point I am tempted to put some air holes underneath and the door as well, but I think I'm going to give it a burn test first before I decide to venture down those roads. We're going to be changing the disc now. Now before you start getting cocky, always unplug it, just to make sure. Well, that's come out better than expected, if I'm totally honest. And what I found out was, if you draw the line, the cutting line, through the actual holes rather than the straight pieces, it's sort of the cutting disc is pulled towards the next hole, so you'll end up with a nice straight cut rather than going off course. Because I've only got one piece of this, and if I cock it up, it's cocked up. So that's worked out really well. So what I need to do now is to get it onto the vise and to bend it where the lines are, so I can fit it inside. Well, because the voice isn't long enough to do the whole piece in one go, what I'm finding is if you just back it off where the little crease or the cock up sort of area is here, just ignore that, come back a bit, carry on, then all you've got to do is that piece there, you open the voice up a little bit more, hold it down and just finish her off. And that seems to have worked pretty well. Well, I've got a feeling this is going to go in alright. Oh yeah, spot on. See what I mean about you wanted to make sure that there's a bit of movement in there? What you don't want is too tight where you got to jam it in there and it's just a bit of a kerfuffle to get it in and out. So that works fine for me. What I might do is just tidy up these edges, because they are razor and you don't want to be making a mistake and just carving yourself up in the field. It's not worth it, so just square the edges away now, I think. Well, that's all nice and smooth now, and it should, yeah, that's handy, it should fit in there nicely like this. Now the beauty about this stove design is the whole lot packs inside itself, including the legs. But before we put it away, I know you guys are going to want to see the chimney on the top. But this has taken, what is it now? It's taken around 2 to 2.5 hours, and that rope is properly on there. It will not come off now. That's stuck, which is great. And the crown and glory is the chimney. That's on there good and proper. Well, I think that's come out pretty damn cool, don't you? It seems quite sturdy enough, and that sort of area is just where I wanted it. And the the flue or the chimney is gone on a treat. And the beauty of this, because it's got the flange part there, you can have another section the same length or smaller to take with you and to slot onto the top to extend it. So at this point in time, I'm quite confident it's just about going to be enough to go through the Polish level tent via the arm slot on the poncho. That's the plan anyway. All we've got to do now is get it all back home and fire it up. Well, it all looks good, doesn't it? That's going to have to do for the time being, but what I might have to do is try and find some sort of fireproof material, like I don't know, like a fire blanket or something like that, and try and get a pouch made. Because if this is still warm and I've got to pack it down, that's just going to melt and go everywhere. So that'll have to do for now. Right, before we go home, I want to see how much it weighs with the old pipe as well. Incidentally, that pipe goes into the BRECON nicely. No problem at all. There you go. 5.4 kilos or £11 9 ounces. Wow, that's a heavy stove. Oh yeah, don't forget the grill. Right, it's probably getting cold now. Let's get some fire going, eh? No, it's nothing serious. This is just some kindling, just to get it rocking and rolling first. For all those who don't know, that's my EDC everyday carry blade now. It's the cold steel BRECON 110, which I keep proper sharp like it should be. There's no point whatsoever in having a blunt knife. So we're just going to crack on and make some kindling up for the second test of the stove. As I say, Jason done the first test to make sure, I think mainly to see if that exhaust port was not leaking, but now I've drilled holes in it and mucked about a bit. I think it deserves another test, if I'm honest. So I'm going to whittle through these and see you in a sec. Right, I'm actually putting Fire Dragon onto a few of the kindling sticks. Now I'm going to lay that on top of all of the sticks that are already in there, and it's just going to exude and burn down and catch everything on fire. That's the plan anyway. Right, let's get her lit. I'm hoping this should go pretty easy really, because it's really cold now. The temperature's dropping like frigging crazy, so we want to get that stoked. Well, that's roaring away there, but I'm not sure that this is supposed to be like this. That's with a baffle as well. Whoa, might have to rethink that one, but it is a proper furnace. And to make sure it's not going to waste, I've got a Crusader mug half filled with cold water at the tap, and I'm going to make myself a brew. Because I'll tell you this much, when it gets cold and you've got a fire in front of you, it's a waste that you're not going to be doing something with it. So I'll shut the door and see what difference it makes, I think. That's it. There's no adjustment on the front yet, as we saw earlier in the video. But well, the flames have stopped shooting at the front. That could be what it was then. Right, time check. 16:55, so it's nearly 5 o'clock. Well, we'll have to wait and see how that goes for the drink. Well, you can see how cold it is, but yeah, it's proper smoking a good one now, which is what I think it's supposed to do. If I can go high up, we might be able to see some flame in there. Yeah, you saw it in there. So I'm not sure what has to be done about that, but already I can feel the heat radiating off of this like you wouldn't believe. The paint is coming off, which is what I want. The more paint comes off, the better it is for me. You know, there's less surface preparation. That's interesting. You see the smoke getting sucked through the top. It's not coming out the holes at all, and I can't see any smoke coming out of the gap so it's looking good. Well, can you see that in there, puffing away? It's interesting to see how these things work actually. Oh, I'll tell you what, that's a bit of a pain in the arse to open one-handed. Wow. It's steaming up because it's so hot. Wow. That is super warm. And the handle is cold to the touch, which is good. Well, I can't be having that in a tent, will I? I have to do something about that, I think. But this is why these sort of things are important to do this now before you start, you know, finishing it off and painting it. Smoke everywhere. And you can hear it too. Well, as you can hear that bellowing pumping through there, if I temporarily stop it, the noise stops and we're getting more smoke through the chimney. But you watch when I take this away. It's coming back. So, answers on a postcard. It's either due to the short length of the chimney. Oh, I don't know. There's not much wind about at the moment. It's very, very cold. But we can't be having that in a tent, can we? Wow. Right, let's see what's going on inside there. Wow. Well, the grill at the bottom is remains stable. It hasn't warped, which is good. There's so much heat. Wow, that's just beautiful. Well, with the door open, look at that. You wouldn't really want that right next to your tent, would you? Flipping out, man. I better not hold it too close because I think it might have damaged the lens already. I'm going to have to check it out in a minute. But that is, I need some more fuel in there, I think. Well, there's the view inside. I think what happens is, I think the flames are licking around the baffle and just getting sucked up through the pipe. So either the baffle needs to be, I don't know, 2 inches longer. I'm not so sure. It's hard to see without holding the camera too close where it's going to damage it. But it's an interesting experiment nonetheless. It is so hot, and to be honest, it's a good idea to do this before you actually use it, you know. What it's doing is it's melting all the paint and the fumes isn't too good. So you don't want to be doing this in a tent for the first time. You're just going to die probably. There's all sorts of nasties coming off of it. But yeah, it's so warm, you just wouldn't believe it. It's lovely and toast. Well, it seems to be behaving itself now. The smoke's just fuming through the top. And there's nothing at all coming out the front. There's no gases or anything coming around the aperture there, nothing at all. As is the sides, I've been having a good look and there's nothing. So that's a good sign for a first burn test. Yeah, the paint's come off as I said, that's good, yeah, in the more the merrier. But yeah, there's nothing leaking. Nothing through the holes that I drilled. I've done them nice and tight, and they're the correct size as well for the screws that are going through. So it has been quite a while now. The water's not boiling, but it's very close to. Should we have a look? Oh, it's not far off, is it? Yeah, can you hear that dripping off? And I'll tell you what, you can't get your hands. Yeah, that's very, very hot. About an inch is the closest you're going to get. Any closer, you're going to lose your skin. Oh, but that is beautiful. It is really cold here, as I said. It's probably about -3 now. But that is just gorgeous. And yeah, it's just still puffing at the top. Well, it's been a while now. I've got a feeling the water's boiling. I don't know how long it's been boiling for, but this really is hit and miss, you know. But that is, you can't really see it that well, but that is really coming out a treat out of that chimney. It really is. I think what it is regarding the blowback syndrome at the front door, the more fuel and the more fierce it is, the more it puffs at the front. So it's just a case of getting to learn how this works, because this is a new one for me, and it's interesting nonetheless. Right, let's see what that water's doing. The time now is 17:15. Oh wow, yeah, it's bloody, I don't know how long it's been boiling, but that's proper boiling now. Let's have a look. Look at that. So I suppose you could do the old boil in the bag meals in your tent, but obviously if you need to cook anything else, take the top off and put the grill on and use that. But that's good enough for me hot chocolate. Oh, I love it. Right, I can take this off of the stove now. Oh. Oh. Steamed facial. Right. Let's get that open. British Army hot chocolate. That can't be bad, can it? I don't know if that looks better. This is the old camera, by the way, with no light in it, so I'm using the little torch in my hand. Needs must. Oh, that does smell really nice. It's going to take a while for it to cool down before I drink that, otherwise I'm just going to scald my mouth. So, from a, I don't know, a boil test, it's 15 minutes give or take, which I don't really mind, to be honest. It's not a big race, is it? So yeah, that's a success. I'm just going to keep cooking that away now to try and get as much paint off as possible, and enjoy my hot chocolate in the cold. Well, that pretty much concludes today's activities with the stove. Put some comments down below if you think you understand or know why certain things are happening to the stove. I'll be very much appreciated to see how this can be improved. But as a basis and the first ever go, I think it's turned out not too bad. So catch up on the next video when I hopefully get it all finished. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay funky.